Hi guys, Sean with Ultimate Shield. One of the most common questions we get here is how to properly wash your car and maintain a ceramic coating. So that's what Renee and I are going to demonstrate today so that you're using the proper techniques to do it safely and efficiently. So first we'll start with the explanation of the buckets. We typically use 3 different buckets. One is our sudsy wash mitt bucket for the body panel. One is a clear rinse bucket, just so after we wash, we can dunk it and clean it before we put it back into the fresh suds. And then others, a standalone wheel wash bucket. That's the dirtiest area on the car, so we don't want to contaminate this dirt and grime with the rest of the body stuff, just so we minimize scratching. But we've got all kinds of different wheel brushes and scrub pads depending on how to get into the wheels best. All right, we like to start on the wheels first. It's the dirtiest part of the car, and we like to get that out of the way and not cross-contaminate with the rest of the vehicle. We always like to rinse the wheels first so that it cools it down. Then we'll pre-treat it with our all-purpose cleaner, and then we'll scrub them. So next we'll scrub all the wheels. So I start on the face, and then I like to work into each of the grooves, and these are a little bit more intricate. So spending your time and getting into all the cracks and crevices. I like to use a wash mitt first, and then follow up with a scrub brush that'll get deeper into the barrels here. Also, don't forget the tires. They always need to be scrubbed as well. And then getting in the wheel wells is an easy thing to overlook, but that's important. Once the wheels are thoroughly washed, you want to make sure to rinse them all the way. I always like to aim right at the center of the wheel. That way I can kind of articulate it to go up and around and get the whole wheel barrel on the inside as well. One thing to note, we do use deionized water with all our washes. That way the hard minerals don't dry and create deposits. That's not always the case for people washing it at home. That's why it is super important to wash it in the shade and not to let it dwell or any of the water to dry on it. You want to keep it wet the whole time you're washing. Another side note with our wash buckets, we always want to make sure every wash starts with fresh water in both buckets. You never want to use them again. Also, you want clean wash mitts every time. So now that the wheels are washed and rinsed, we're ready to start with the body. We like to start with a good rinse just to make sure all the main dirt is washed off before we have to start scrubbing and being aggressive with the wash mitts. So we'll give it a good rinse. Now that we've rinsed the car, you can either start to wash it with your wash mitts, or if you do have the benefit of a foam cannon, this is where we like to foam it, just to let the foam start doing its work before we start agitating it. Also, it's always good to start from the top down. So we always like to do the top surfaces first, working on to the lower sections. The lower sections are always the dirtiest, so that's where we want to end up at. One thing to note with cars with paint protection film, typically we wrap and roll every edge that we can. However, you still, if you're using a pressure washer, want to stay about 2 feet back. You never want to be an inch or 2 away. That's no good for your paint, your trim, or the film. So keep that in mind. So the foam wash is a kind of pre-treatment to getting the car clean, getting the major dirt and dust that's built up off of it. So we'll go ahead and rinse it before we get started with our normal wash. And if you're not foaming it, you'll go ahead and just start with our next process here. So now we got the car foamed and rinsed off. And if you do that step, fantastic. If not, you're just gonna jump right to the wash phase, and you want fresh wash mitts and fresh suds and soap. I like to use 2 mitts at all times. That way everything that I'm touching is actually cleaning, and it's a place, if you're not using that hand, it's somewhere to rest your palm, but it's actually doing double duty work too. We always want to start on the upper surfaces and work our ways down. So I like to start on the hood, move up to the roof, reach as far as you can get, overlap, and I usually get about that much of the car done with nice fresh suds, and I'll want to come back and dunk into the fresh washer, and resuds up. Depending how warm it is, you may want to take a break and rinse off the upper surfaces and then move on to the sides. I usually like to do a double wash on the cars and go one direction the first time, rinse it, and then come back the other way the second time. Your hands seem to find different nooks and crannies as you progress. But everything going from the top down. You want to be careful as you get to the lower areas of the car that you don't let your wash mitt hit the ground or drag against the ground. That was same with dry towels as well. So now that the car is washed off and rinsed, it's time to dry it. We like to blow the cars off first to get as much residual water off as possible, especially on a ceramic coated car. That way we're minimizing the amount of dragging that's going over it. So we'll go ahead and blow first and then dry it off with our big dry towels. One tip I like to do with the cord is wrap it over my neck. That way it's not going to drag all over the body panels. This might go much easier. So now that we've blown as much water off as we can, we like to get our big, soft, dry towels and lightly go over the rest to get the rest of the water. I just like to move panel by panel as far as I can reach down and then left to right, always overlapping. That way you know you're always getting it all. Once I go around the whole car, I like to go one more time the opposite way. So once the car's dried off, we want to go around and get the door jambs and the wheels. That way everything gets dried and cleaned at the same time. So I like to open up all the door jambs. And then I'll dry all the door jambs. So it's kind of cleaning it if they're not horribly dirty. I do this every time, so they shouldn't be too dirty. And once the jam is done, go ahead and get all the edges of the door as well. Again, I always like to have 2 towels in my hand. That way they're both always working. Don't forget the trunk jam. Always start on the upper trunk because that's what's going to be dripping. And once I go around that, we'll get the jam itself and then anywhere else the water's fallen. So once the door jams are cleaned, we can use these same towels, just flip it around. So you've got a clean edge again, cleaner and drier edge. And then those are perfect to use. I like to start on the wheel wells and then the wheels themselves. And when you're done with the wheels, don't forget to do a final dry on the tires as well. This keeps them cleaned and allows the dressing to adhere much nicer to a clean surface than a dirty tire, and that's overlooked quite a bit. So we're getting ready to do a final wipe down with our ceramic boost. This is XPEL's kind of dumbed down version of the coating itself, which has been applied. So this is a great way to rejuvenate the coating and make it super fresh and slick. This doesn't need to be done every wash, but maybe once every month or two, it's a nice little benefit and treat to rejuvenate things. Add some to my towel, spray a little bit on the panel, and then kind of buff it in. Maybe go over it 2 or 3 times. I'll flip my towel and buff it off. That's all there is to it. This is also nice because it acts as a final dry if you didn't get the vehicle 100% dry. And now you're left with a nice, slick, shiny surface. Reapply, kind of maybe 1 spray per panel as you go is all you need. Again, flip the towel and buff it off. Don't forget the exhaust tips. Exhaust tips need love too. So we've got 2 steps left. That's dressing the tires and cleaning the windows. And the reason I do it in that order is I don't want to get any of the tire dressing to accidentally splatter if you're spraying on the glass. So we'll go ahead and dress the tires, make sure they're nice and supple and clean and dressed. And then we'll clean the windows so they're sparkling again. So whenever you want to dress the tires, you want to use a quality dressing. Water-based is ideal. And when you dress, you want to make sure the dressing, it absorbs all the way into the tires. So a lot of times I'll dress them twice. Once it's absorbed, I'll come back around and hit them one more time. But you want to be careful that you're not leaving too much excess in the grooves of the tires or in the wheel, because when you drive away, that's what gets flinged off. So you want to have enough to cover, but you also want to wipe it off completely so that there's no extra residual that's going to fling up. If you get it on the wheels, no big deal. Just follow around with a clean wheel towel once you're done. All right, the final step to a clean and properly washed car is sparkling glass. Couple tips: quality glass cleaner. A little bit goes a long way, and we love these waffle towels. So the key is not using too much product, and then just a spray or two. I use up and down motions on the outside and side to side motions on the inside, and then flip your towel and polish it off so there's no streaks. So again, a little bit goes a long way. A lot of times when we do our ceramic coatings, we will ceramic coat the glass as well. And that just makes the glass that much easier to clean up and that much easier to be streak free. So when cleaning glass, one little tip that a lot of people miss, they'll round stuff off too much. And what you want to do, you want to square it off, getting right up into the edge in the corners. That way it's completely clean and you don't have clean and dirty marks on your glass. And that's a wrap. So hopefully you've enjoyed learning how to wash cars with us and maintain them properly. And if you have any questions, we're always here to help. We're happy to answer any questions and guide you through the process. Thanks again.